Slipping Through the Cracks, Part 4.
Well, tonight's just been wonderful. Held prisoner all night by one person or another. Everyone seems to know about my history in Azlax, and I've lost my magic dagger ring. Even better, I've agreed to work for some suspicious drow, who was content leaving me to be kidnapped.
Strings sighed as she wearily approached the door to her home. After Looping had released her, she'd run as fast as her cramped leg could take her to escape the aqueducts. She'd made it to the streets before the adrenaline wore off and she was forced to come to a stop. Cold, tired and hungry, she'd taken cover in an alley to rest for a few moments and calm her racing mind. Once some strength had returned to her, she'd continued her way home, feeling sorry for herself as she did so.
I don't even have anything to eat, and it's hardly any warmer in this wreck of a home. Am I even going to be safe, given Shinura clearly knew where I lived? If she knows, then who else might? Moving to a new home is an option, but the rest of the buildings around here are even worse state.
Strings pushed the door to her house open and stood inside staring at the decrepit living area that she called her home. The thought of moving to a house even more derelict than her current one made her heart drop into her empty stomach. Feeling forlorn, Strings made her way to the pile of worn blankets that she called her bed, tiredness adding to her misery.
I take it that Looping and the dwarves were able to locate Raedril?
Strings whipped around, startled as Shinura stepped out of the shadows in the corner of the room. The drow made no motion other than to look at Strings as she waited for an answer. Despite her weariness, Strings felt a wave of frustration and anger spill forth as she glared at the drow in response.
No, I asked Raedril nicely, and he agreed to let me go. Yes, they got the bastard. At least I think so. He was shot in the leg with an arrow but escaped into the tunnels. The dwarves gave chase, and Looping stayed behind, eventually letting me go. No thanks to you, I thought we had a deal.
We do. I had a task for you, and you completed it as agreed. We never agreed on when you would start, and I told you that I would use you as I see fit.
You said my skills had your attention, and that's why you wanted me. I didn't think you'd use me as bait, a fancy trinket to be passed around the thugs of the city.
I said the tasks would be best suited to you. In this case, you, the wanted criminal, with a high price to be taken alive. The perfect bait for a simple-minded thug such as Raedril.
Before Strings could answer, Shinura threw her a small burlap sack. The tabaxi caught the sack, still seething as she looked inside to find the salted pork, fresh bread and cheese. Her anger faded as quickly as it came. Her rumbling stomach reminded her that she hadn't eaten all night. Eyes widening, Strings went to grab the still warm bread before stopping and glaring at Shinura with suspicion.
How do I know this isn't poisoned?
What value would there be in killing you now? If I wanted you dead, I would have killed you the moment you stepped into the room.
Still unsure, Strings hesitated a moment longer before giving in to her hunger and tearing into the food. She savoured the warmth and softness of the bread, devouring it quickly before turning to the meat and cheese as Shinura continued.
Not ideal, that Raedril ran, but it doesn't surprise me. Inside the aqueducts with an injured leg, he's unlikely to outrun the dwarves. Though I have no doubt that Kildrak will be smashing through any and all grates in their way. The cost for that will be coming from their pay. Looping likely stayed to guard you and search for their second target in Raedril's base, correct?
Yes, that's right. What were they looking for anyway? Raedril let slip that he kept hold of something. Was that how he crossed you?
That is information that you need not know about. It's for Looping and the dwarves to handle. I will be taking back that necklace I put in your pocket, though.
You mean the one that has tracking magic on it? That is how you knew where to send them, isn't it?
Yes, it has a spell in its gemstone that allows me to track it. I needed something that they wouldn't be suspicious of and take back to their base. Any trinket I left for them to pick up could have been missed or left if they grew suspicious. However, a thief with a bounty on her head and no visible connections to me was too good for Raedril to pass up.
So you admit it? You were going to use me regardless of how I answered your question? What was the point of going through my history and asking me to make a choice if it didn't change anything?
Strings stopped eating for a moment and focused her full attention on Shinura. The drow crossed her arms as she gave Strings an appraising look, as if once again measuring the thief's value.
And what makes you say that?
You tipped off Raedriel before you knew what answer I was going to give. Given how much of my history you know, you probably knew that I would choose to work for you, but you had no way to know that for certain. And you don't strike me as the kind of woman to take unnecessary risks. Whatever answer I gave, you could have spun it to leave me there regardless, and you would have still benefited from it. The only thing I can't figure out is why you went through the hassle of giving me the choice if it didn't matter.
I see. You're more intelligent than your actions show, though hiding that intelligence isn't necessarily a bad thing. You are correct. I intended to leave you to be taken by Raedriel's thugs, regardless of which option you chose. If you chose to work for the guild, I would have simply called it your entrance task and instructed Looping and the dwarves to rescue you. If you chose for me to walk away, then the dwarves would have taken you in and collected the bounty instead of initiating a rescue. In either case, your decision may not have changed the fact that I was leaving you to be taken, but it changed what would have happened after. While you have figured out what my initial intentions were, you failed to see the bigger picture.
Strings paused for a moment as she processed what Shinura told her. It was clear the drow had planned everything out even more than Strings had realised, masterminding events to push everyone into making decisions that, one way or another, would benefit the drow. Despite her frustrations at being used, Strings couldn't help but be slightly in awe of how easily Shinura had manipulated everyone without anyone being suspicious of her involvement.
How can I be sure that you aren't the one behind the smugglers' learning of the bounty for me in Aslux? This whole scheme of yours was dependent on them turning on me in the first place.
It was, though I had no hand in arranging it. As I said before, you have Captain Rigger to thank for that. He nearly had you the last time you met him. It was only Looping interceding that prevented it, so it's no surprise that he made another attempt.
He was going to let me drown then. Unless I'm still worth half as much dead in Aslux, aren't I?
Yes. I also suspect that he would have had someone ready to cut you loose once you were under the water and out of sight. A show to prove his commitment to the smugglers, therefore securing income from them while also secretly taking you alive to claim the bounty. Captain Rigger is a cunning schemer in his own right. He is not to be trifled with.
I guess not. So what now? I've proven I have value to you, and I know now that it's more than just my skills you want. Were the other perks that you mentioned real, or were you already lying to me?
As if to answer Strings' question, Shinura revealed a small piece of parchment with a simple iron key which she held out to the thief. Once again, Strings hesitated for a moment before reaching out and taking the items. To Strings' surprise, there was something folded up in the parchment. Unfurling it revealed a small silver band, her transforming ring, which Oaken had taken from her.
I was being truthful while we were negotiating. The deal stands as we arranged. As promised, directions to a safe place to stay, along with the key and your ring. Once you get there, burn these directions so no one else can find it. I will arrange a method for you to send items back to Aslux in due course. Your time is yours to do as you wish until I have further need of you, though I suggest to maintain a low profile for the next few days.
Leaving Strings with the key and parchment, Shinura turned away and left through the door of the house. Strings watched Shinura leave, feeling uncertain about the arrangement between the two of them. She stood there, considering her options for a few moments before finishing the food that Shinura had given her and packing her meagre possessions. The food had refreshed her somewhat, and she didn't want to stay in the cold if there was a warmer place to be. Deciding to trust Shinura, Strings finished packing her things and left the decrepit building behind.
Now this is a perk.
Strings lay back in the wooden tub, letting the warmth of the bath water wash over her. Her aches and pains of the night slowly faded away as her body finally relaxed. She had followed Shinura's instructions, which had led her back down into the aqueducts. this time in the west side of the city. She came across a small locked doorway in one of the older tunnels where a gentle flow of water gurgled through. Using the key Shinura had provided, Strings let herself in to find a small living area consisting of 3 rooms. The first and largest was a bedroom which had a simple cotton bed, desk, chair, and a few small trunks and shelves for storage. The second room was a small kitchen with a little wooden pantry that had a few days' worth of food, along with running water from the aqueduct flowing through a channel carved in the wall. The third room, however, had to be Strings' favourite.
I don't imagine many people in Karnak have self-filling baths, let alone heated ones.
Strings lifted the strange dinner plate shaped of basalt out of the water and placed it on the stand next to the tub. Laying back, Strings closed her eyes, relaxing as she enjoyed the warmth of the water, no longer cold for the first time that night. Like the kitchen, the third room in the hideout had a channel cut into the southern wall that had a gentle stream of water from the aqueduct running through it. However, it also had a small wooden water gate that could be turned, redirecting some of the flow into the large wooden tub that took up most of the space in the small room. Next to the tub was a simple stone shelf that held a strange piece of basalt rock with a note beside it. The note only had a single word on it, but caused the basalt rock to immediately grow blisteringly hot when Strings had uttered it. Realising she could have a heated bath, Strings had immediately opened the water gate before using her dagger to nudge the rock into the slowly filling tub. The rock only seemed to stay hot for 10 minutes or so, as the tub had slowly filled, but that had been enough to bring the bath up to the perfect temperature for Strings to enjoy.
It's a little ironic for me to be this comfortable here in the aqueducts, given what happened earlier tonight. I'm not going to complain though. A warm bath and comfortable bed beats being tied to that grate.
As she relaxed, Strings allowed her mind to wander, going over the events of the night. Things had certainly turned out far differently to how she expected, with the scheming of Captain Rigger and Shinura's manipulations having changed everything. She may be more comfortable now than she had been at the start of the night, but that was only because it worked to Shinura's favour.
It's pretty clear that there's a lot of scheming and puppeteering in Karnak, and the rest of the country for that matter. The smugglers took me because of Rigger's blackmail, and Rachel had no idea that taking me was a trap. Even Looping and the dwarves didn't know the extent they were being used by Shinura.
Thinking back to her conversation with Looping earlier, Strings recalled how the ranger had suddenly changed his mind upon learning about the orphans that her activities supported. Looping's change in demeanour had been sudden, with his usual humour replaced with a hard-set anger.
I wonder what the reason behind that is. There's clearly a story there. Whatever it is, Shinura had been right about Looping letting me go if he knew where my loot went. Though I think I prefer his usual side to whatever that was.
Strings laid in the bath for a while as her mind continued to wander. Eventually the water began to cool, and Strings' mind turned to that of the comfortable bed next door. Drying herself off, Strings changed and made her way to the bedroom, ready for the long night to finally come to an end.
I'll just have to see what the future holds. I've agreed to work with Shinura for now at least. It might not have been what I had anticipated, but I'll be bait for her traps every night for perks like these. Or at least every other night. Need to have time for more hot baths after all.